Many places across the state recorded the rainiest July on record. And that was great news for Kevyn Fowler.
Kevyn describes himself as an avid mushroom hunter and spends just about every minute he can in the outdoors, in the woods, foraging. And if you tag along with him, you will never look at a mushroom quite the same way again. Kevyn, one thing you said to me, I think
Oh, I see a coral.
There are few people who get this enthusiastic.
I just get excited. I was like, yes, we see a coral.
When they happen upon a particular type of mushroom in the woods.
I can see that a mile away. This is a coral mushroom. These are really extraordinary, really neat. You can catch them in the sunlight, you can catch them in the shade. Capture. Coral mushrooms are a beautiful, beautiful group of mushrooms.
While most of us see a forest full of trees, Kevyn is far more mesmerized by what is going on the forest floor.
There's a lot of different layers to it for me. First of all, ever since I was a kid, I love being in the woods. I got into this hobby because I bought a camera, a phone camera that had a macro lens. And I started taking pictures of mushrooms because they didn't go anywhere.
He got curious, learning more and more about the different kinds of mushrooms he was finding in the woods.
I wanted to learn about the poisonous ones because the 12-year-old boy in me was like, ooh, poisonous mushrooms, ooh, that's so cool, you know. And so I learned those first. And so that I could rule those out. And then when I sort of started learning that you could eat some of them, those are the ones that I went like, okay, I'm learning all the ones you can eat. The more that I learned, the more that I saw, the more that I realized that this is going to last my whole life. This learning, this curiosity, this exploration is an unending pursuit. And it just makes me happy. And taking pictures of the mushrooms makes me even happier.
Mushrooms are everywhere in the woods, and there's a good reason for that.
Now, the mushroom itself is simply the fruiting body of the mycelium of the fungus. The mycelium coats every single inch of the forest floor. Okay, there's mycelium everywhere. It's all the different species, and they reach out, and they have relationships with trees, the fungi. And so when you see a mushroom, that's literally the apple on the apple tree.
That means it's okay to pick a mushroom. In fact, it's essential in order to identify it.
So what we'll do is we'll just pick it up. Yeah, it's a russula. I can tell already. You can just barely see the gills in there. And it's a purple russula.
He has tens of thousands of photos of mushrooms on his phone, taken during countless trips to the woods while he built up his ever-expanding encyclopedic knowledge of mushrooms.
I would advise an amateur to try and learn maybe 1, 2, or 3, if they want to forage. Learn 1 or 2, maybe 3 species a season. Learn them very well so that there's no question about what you're harvesting. Keep your list light, you know. Go with the easy ones. Yeah, you know what that is?
I don't.
Well, I know you don't. This is Hypomyces is one of my favorite funguses.
Not many guys have a favorite fungus. I asked him if there was a way to tell poisonous or dangerous mushrooms from the ones that are safe to eat.
There are no rules of thumb for mushrooms. There's no set rule. What you do is you learn each mushroom individually. You can buy guidebooks and you can Google your image.
This time of year, one of his favorite ones to forage and eat are black trumpets.
These are incredible mushrooms. They're so tasty and delicious, and they're just extraordinary looking mushrooms.
They blend in with the leaves, but once you know what you're looking for, we found them everywhere. He dries them and uses them on sauces, in soups, or on pizza.
And a lot of times, you know, looking for mushrooms can just be walking along a trail. You don't have to bushwhack it out into the trees.
After years of studying mushroom, he reels off the Latin name just as easily as the common name.
And people send me pictures of mushrooms. Kev, what's this? What's this? I love that. I get to be a little detective, and I'm like, oh, that's Amanita amaryrubescens, you know? So maybe we should have a little website where people pronounce the actual true pronunciation. In the meantime, I just say them like Harry Potter spells. Hypomyces lactiflorum.
And as he drops to his knees to photograph yet another mushroom,
Capture.
It is safe to say that Kevyn Fowler will never tire of the magic of mushrooms.
There's always something around the next corner, under the next tree. So it's an endless source of joy.
Now, Kevyn actually takes pictures for a living. When he is not in the forest, he is a seasoned videographer with WMTW News. He tells me you can mushroom all year long. The season is generally April until late November. But in the winter, there are perennial mushrooms that grow on trees and lichen to be found. There are plenty of resources online if you're interested in learning more about mushrooms, and we will include some of those links in the 207 section of our website and mobile app. I learned more in the couple of hours I was with Kevyn Fowler about mushrooms than I ever thought possible.
I learned more in the 4.5 minutes watching that story about mushrooms than I've ever known in my entire life.
You know, when we got there, I expected Kevyn to arrive with some, big, expensive DSLR camera to take those gorgeous photographs that he takes, and instead he takes everything on his cell phone and he uses an audible command of capture, and that way he can really position the cell phone in hard, difficult angles, and then it takes the picture when he says capture. It was fascinating.
Well, one of the things that's striking about the photos is that obviously not all of them, but in some of them the colors of the mushrooms are so bright, so vivid. And I think most of us tend to think of mushrooms as sort of gray, beige, just not colorful. And yet, when you see them through his eye, they clearly are.
And we found some ones that were really just extraordinary, like the ones at the beginning, those coral mushrooms, really beautiful.
Which almost have this sort of like elegant, sort of small sculptural quality that you associate maybe with seashells or something. That's what I was thinking, is those beautiful curves and whatnot.
Really pretty. Lots of fun.
And he's such a great guy, too.
He is.